Okay, we should be live. This is Dusty Bates with Veritas Capital Investment Group, here with Steve Harper. We're doing this presentation for Straight Talk Schools, showing you how our business works and a little niche that we have in this business, and hopefully you can benefit from it too. I'm just checking here, making sure that I will hide this. I think we should be live. Good. Okay, so today we're going to talk about closing your first commercial real estate transaction. I'm here with Steve Harper, and he's going to walk us through what we do and how you can benefit from it as well.
Absolutely. Hey, thanks for having us on your Facebook today, I suppose. And I want to clarify one thing. This is a 90-day challenge, and we're not talking about. We're probably talking to a lot of residential real estate agents, whatever level you're at right now. We're not talking about a challenge with what you're currently making. We're talking about adding $30,000 in the next 90 days in new business that you are not currently working on, and a niche that you have not probably seen before. So that is the point of this 90-day challenge. All right. So today, what we're going to do, we're going to talk to you about how we close $30,000 in real estate commissions every 90 days without a big sphere of influence, and how we do it and challenge you to do the same thing starting at the end of this webinar. We do have to give you the disclaimer first, and I'm not going to read it to you, but here's the deal. Be a big boy, be a big girl. You guys got to do all of the right stuff, but the reality is we are real estate brokers. We're not attorneys, we're not CPAs, and we're not financial advisors. And all investments have risk. So Let's keep that in mind as we go. This is almost exclusively what our team does. And we say we were doing this for Straight Talk Schools. But in addition to being lead educators at Straight Talk Schools, Dusty and I also have a small boutique brokerage here in Northern California. And really, this year we've shifted exclusively. Prior to this year, we weren't exclusively just doing what we're going to show you today, our little niche. But as of 2020 and most of 2019, that is what we're doing. So to begin with on this, we've got I guess this is an example number one.
Right. We're just showing them basically. This is basically what we do. We take properties like this, right?
Yep.
Little small portfolio. This is a house. What was it? 2 houses, a duplex, and or 2 duplexes.
It was 2 duplexes, 2 single family homes. Now I'm recognizing this, and 1 fourplex.
Right.
And this is one of the examples that we have. And what we're talking about is taking properties like this, and they're all over the country. You have if you've been in real estate for any length of time, you know that there's a boatload of investors out there who have 3, 4, 5, 20 of these types of properties that they've acquired over time and built up an arsenal, I guess, if you will, of these properties that require intensive management, maintenance, upkeep, etc. So our niche is taking this type of property, and then we move and help these buyers exchange into this type of property, more like a Burger King, a Dollar General. And the good part about these is these are single tenant net lease properties. Generally speaking, they can be multi-tenant, but as a general rule, we're utilizing single tenant, well-researched net leased properties. Yep. When we say net leased properties, what do we mean by that? Well, we mean that it's really whatever rent is coming to the landlord is net to the landlord, because in addition to the rent that tenant pays, this Burger King tenant, for example, a Dollar General tenant, a medical tenant, an industrial tenant, there's all kinds of net lease properties out there. In addition to the rent that they're paying, they're also paying all of the property taxes, all of the property maintenance, all of the property insurance. And generally speaking, guess what? These are on long-term leases that also have rental increases already built in on them. Right. So it's kind of it's a refreshing change, because a lot of folks, and what we've determined over the last several years, we've been kind of playing in this sphere and moving into this niche with our brokerage. We've noticed that a lot of these property owners that own the houses, the duplexes, the triplexes, they don't have a very good plan to retire or their exit strategy. They really don't have an exit strategy, is what we've seen over time.
We've also found is, they've invested over the course of their life, right? They've got 10, 15, 20 properties that they've, and they know how to run these properties. But the heirs,
their kids don't.
Maybe not, right? And that's a big fear. So this also benefits that too, is that takes away a lot of that fear, because these Burger Kings, Dollar Generals, a lot less management and knowledge needed to run these things.
Yeah, and we'll certainly get into that more as we move through this presentation today.
Right.
Stay at the end. We're going to offer you something. I want to bribe you. This is my shameless bribe. I will do a shameless plug at another point in this, but this is my shameless bribe. The shameless bribe is this: stay to the end, and we will send you our little commercial real estate sales toolkit. This is the actual toolkit that we use in our brokerage. Yes, this is for Straight Talk schools, but this is what we use in our personal brokerage. We have well, Dusty, why don't you take us through these?
So and this is what we use to secure these listings too. So there's a calculator that we've created. We'll give this to you. It's a cash flow analysis calculator. There's a boot calculator. So if you're familiar with 1031 exchange, if you have any money left over from the exchange that you need to take out, that's called boot.
And I want to stop right there. I want to point out to the fact, and everybody listening, a lot of times when you're dealing with these investors, these clients will tell you, I don't want any boot, so don't show me anything that's going to get boot. But what if the property that you find them performs well better than anything else you can find them for $200,000 less, and they have to take $200,000 in boot to get the deal that they want? Is that really a bad thing? And that's what this calculator shows them.
Right.
It's not necessarily a bad thing.
Right. Built in this calculator we're going to give you, it's got a mortgage estimator that you can have. We're going to send you an ebook that we put together on the top 7 mistakes that new agents make when they're trying to enter the commercial field. We're also going to send you a video series on it's a 4-part video series on commercial real estate. And then there's, at the very end, we're going to show you a possibility of doing a strategy session with us. There's going to be some criteria that you're going to have to follow. But if you stay to the end, we'll show you how to get all this stuff. But first off, we're going to show you in this presentation how we close 30,000 in sales in 90 days on average. We're going to show you a live example. We're going to walk you through this calculator that we've got and show you how that works. And then we're going to show you how to successfully close that deal.
Yep. So imagine that your investors can't wait to sell their properties. What if the investors that again, if you've been in real estate as a professional for any length of time, you've got your database in your phone. And imagine if your phone kept ringing with the investors saying, I need you to come and sell all my stuff. I need you to sell my apartments. I need you to get rid of my rental houses. Wouldn't that be a wonderful thing? Also imagine that they're actually excited to have you sell it, and they're what was the word that we love to hear about a seller? What if they were motivated to sell? And again, I'm not talking about selling it, 50% of the market value. What if they were motivated to sell it at market value? And these were people who didn't beat you up and try and get you to sell it at 105% of the value because their aunt, picked out the flooring and it's better. What if they just were motivated to make it happen? And what if they were motivated to look at you as their real estate professional and say, I want you to have this done in 90 days or less? And wouldn't you as a professional turn to that client and say, well, I'm going to need your participation in that, but together we can get that done.
Yep. Yes,
right?
Please.
Yep. Yes, please. Every real estate professional listening. And if you're an investor listening to this, this is what we talk about behind your back. And if you are an investor and you're listening, pay attention. You'll appreciate some of these tools and some of the things that we have to show you here today too, because all we're really doing here is we're showing real estate professionals not just how to make money in commissions. We're showing real estate professionals how to improve their client's position significantly, make their client more money, make their client have less work, and make money in the process. That's a true win-win situation.
It is.
Yeah.
Yep.
So first, how do we close $30,000 in commercial commissions in the next 90 days? Again, I want to generate this 30,000 not from what your current book of business is. I want to add this on top of whatever it is that you're currently doing. But imagine that we could show you a little niche in which you could get some of those investors that have not wanted to part with their investments that they've acquired over the last 20 or 30 years. Because why? They're afraid of 1031 exchange. Right. They want to stay with the devil they know versus the devil they don't. They're afraid of the 45-day identification period, the 180-day close period. They're afraid of all of the things that come with change, right? Right. That's really what it comes down to. So what do? We show investors how to list and sell investment properties and exchange them into net lease properties. Let's share some examples. Yep. And some of these examples, these examples that we're going to share with you, these are from our book of business. Every example we show you here today are projects and properties that we have worked on, closed successfully. These are actual case success stories. Yep. Or case studies. Yep. So here's some examples. You may recognize this.
From before, yeah.
When the first slide came up, I got a little confused. I think I tried to rush it, but that's all right. And I get excited, so I apologize. But anyway, this was a family, and I want to tell you a little bit about this family. I remember it completely now. We have a fourplex, 2 duplexes, and 2 single-family homes. All of these properties were inherited by a gentleman who acquired these slowly but surely, working hard, doing it the old-fashioned way, elbow grease. He took care of these properties up until the day he died, really. I mean, not necessarily the day, but he worked on these properties until he passed away. And then he left these properties to his children. And I believe what we had here was 3 sisters and a brother that ended up inheriting all of these properties. They were all debt-free. They were all paid off. The way this worked is this owner would actually knock on the door every first of the month, generally to collect the rent himself. That's the way the dad did it before he passed away. So what we ended up with a situation where the kids started taking care of these property, and one of them would go and do all of the maintenance on the property 2 or 3 days a week. He was driving probably more than 100 miles round trip to take care of whatever needed to be taken care of. And when we ran our numbers, when Dusty and I came in and we evaluated these properties, they should have been making a cash flow of $80,000 per year. Now, I'm going to be direct with you. We like to kind of go the under commit and over deliver route. So the reality, though, when we actually looked at what they were getting, they were only getting about $40,000 to $50,000 a year that they were actually taking out of this cash flow because of the severe deferred maintenance. Right. That they kept having to put capital improvements back into this property. And there was so much deferred maintenance in these properties that it was a big chunk really to get them back to par. So they were bleeding a lot of potential cash flow that they even could have had. But for the sake of comparison, we even showed them, we said, we know you're making 40 to 50, but you should be making 80 if everything was up to par. And this is what we're going to use for our example today. We actually exchanged them into these 2 properties, this Burger King and this Dollar General. Both of these were on long-term leases. They were both very, very well secured tenants. They were very seasoned tenants. Dollar General, obviously, that was an investment grade tenant. The Burger King was a large franchisee, a large successful franchisee. And literally, we were able to raise their cash flow by what you see right there, $80,000 versus 131. And if you notice, they actually bought down. They actually ended up with some boot after paying a little bit of commission.
And I might say that too, they got rid of essentially all of their management needs.
All of their headaches.
Yeah.
The stories I heard this family tell about managing these tenants, I mean, it was hair pulling sometimes, and it can get that way. And I got to tell you something. This was probably one of the best examples I've seen where someone left a property to the children, and the children did step up and start doing the deal. They did. This was one of the best examples I ever saw, because most of the time that goes horribly wrong when I see that happen and take place. So in that case study, this family portfolio, basically from list to close time. And when we say close time, we mean all 6 properties. We mean from the time it took to sell everything that they owned and buy, is it 6 properties or 7? It was
Let's go back. Let's see.
I think 7 properties.
It was 7.
It was 7. You got a little mistake there.
random.
So I'm sorry. At the time, it was all 7 properties, which means sell the 5 properties that they currently owned and close the replacement. In this particular case, it took 246 days total. That is a fact. The gross sales of the sales price of the rentals of the relinquished properties of the residential units they sold was $2.26 million, and then they spent $2,075,000 to replace it. Total volume on that for us in our brokerage was 4.3 million, a little over 4.3 million, and just under $110,000 in commission earned. When you run the 90-day number at that for this particular niche only, that was $39,654 every 90 days. Now imagine what else you could do with this. This is one deal. This is one deal.
Just one project. Now
this was one project, and we call it project, not property.
Right. Yeah. Right. Now we did, just so you know, because it took so long, that's a lot of property. So we actually broke it into 2 projects. We did 2 or 3 at one point, sold, bought the Burger King, and then we sold the remainder. And so it was kind of 2 projects.
Basically, and to give you guys a little look behind the curtain, in regard with this particular transaction, the reason we ended up doing some of that is because of, again, there was a lot of deferred maintenance on these properties. So we basically packaged them, and we made sure that we were able to quickly handle that 45-day period, which is why we packaged the way we packaged and closed the way we did. Yep. And that's just something that you can kind of learn as you go, and we'll talk more about how you can brush yourself up on that as well, further on. The second example, real world example. This is a very successful residential agent referred us to this client of his, probably one of the top producers in the country. This was one of his clients, and he referred us to this very nice lady who had lost her husband after 40 plus years of marriage. I don't remember exactly, but maybe 45 years of marriage. It was 50. It was a lot of years of marriage. Husband had taken care of all the rentals. When we came along, we ended up with 2 vacant houses and a duplex that had 1 tenant in it. And the other 3 units were, I wouldn't say uninhabitable, but they were rough. They were in very, very rough shape. And really, she was grieving. She didn't really know what to do with these, and they weren't really her cup of tea. It was something that he had handled during the marriage. Yeah. So we came in and we evaluated all of this stuff, and what we ended up doing was letting that residential agent, he went ahead and had those 2 vacant houses. He found a purchase for those 2 vacant houses. We ended up taking the 4-plex to one of our investor flippers. We got everybody to work together between the communication between his brokerage and ours. We were able to take all of these 3 properties very quickly. We were able to put a plan together that worked within the 45-day identification period. And we were able to go from about $14,500 in net income to about $80,000 in net income, and there's some upside on that $80,000 too. This is that Taco Bell is in a very, very good position for future growth. Yeah, that one's in very nice shape. Most importantly, this owner was able to now sleep at night, because if you think about it, we had 2 vacant houses and 3 vacant units, and think about the liability as those things debilitate, that she was able to then close her eyes by relinquishing herself and separating herself from that liability. Right. And this is what that looked like. 82 days for all 4 properties, start to close. Gross sales of what she sold was about $1,160,000. Had she put several $100,000 into those properties, probably maybe closer to 500, she probably could have gotten a lot more, but that's not what she was interested in. We talked about that. She was interested in taking care of her situation as easy and painlessly as she could. So she purchased the Taco Bell replacement for $1.45 million. And in this case, she had some money put away. She knew how to save her shekels, and she was able to, bridge the cash difference. And we ended up earning a little less than $50,000 in gross commission in that period of time. And she was able to increase her return by about 5 or 6 times. 5 or
Wow.
6 times. And most importantly, she could sleep at night again.
Yeah. If I could go back, I just want to point out,
Sure.
we're talking about 30,000 in 90 days. That is our average. This one outperformed that. And I think our third example.
And we're
also
talking about the average with this niche.
Yeah.
As we've been playing with it.
Yeah.
That's what we're talking about. So
third example.
Third
doesn't
example.
have to be complicated. It doesn't have to be a bunch of houses. It could be an apartment.
Absolutely. Well, this is another real example. We helped this client sell a 16-unit apartment complex. They were able to take that 16-unit apartment complex. And again, we say $82,000 in net income. The reality was it wasn't as bad as our first example, but the reality was on this one is it was less. I don't know if it was significantly less, but it was less that they were actually getting.
Yeah.
And, right after we closed the transaction, they immediately went to $129,000, almost $130,000. And again, they only had to come to the table with about $110,000 to make that happen. Maybe a little bit more because they paid some commissions to us as well. This particular case study, 74 days. What we sold, 2.1. What we bought was a little over 2.2. Total volume, another $4.4 million. Again, this is one transaction. Total commission earned here, $91,590 on this particular example.
Yeah.
And it was real. It was a real deal. We sold at asking price. And typically, when we market these and when we have we know when we have a motivated client. Because a motivated client listens when we say, yeah, we can list it for this and we may have to reposition, we may have to change. We're kind of getting into the top of our market on the asking price. However, if you list it here, I think you've got a much better chance of having this happen quickly. And a lot of those clients, they'll look at us and they'll start doing the math in their own head. Yeah, gosh, if I take 6 months to close it, how much cash flow am I losing by waiting to do this deal?
That's a good point. If I could go back here,
Yep.
What we find happens, like if you look here, they're more focused. Once we do these comparisons, they're more focused on their net income, right? Am I replacing my net income? Am I getting a raise? Than they are on the purchase price. So when we're showing this to them, they're less interested in having a super aggressive price point and more interested in can I replace my income? Can I get?
They're more interested in a reasonable market price point that's going to sell without a lot of headache.
Right. So,
what our team does, we take multifamily properties, their rentals, whatever they currently have built their life with, and we help them change into triple net lease properties. And we put in here such as Taco Bell, Starbucks, Denny's, etc. I want to talk just a moment about the etc. That can be medical. It can be industrial. It can be office. It can be, honestly, we could find, depending on your price point, we can find you an Amazon building that's on a triple net lease. We can find you a Walmart, a Lowe's, a Home Depot, a hospital, an urgent care clinic, Starbucks. You guys know what Starbucks is, right? And these are all very well-researched properties. And that's what we do. So why is this niche so great for the investors? Because again, I think we touched on this earlier, Dusty. This is a win-win. And I think it's a win-win-win. And I'll elaborate on that. I think it's a triple win. It lessens the investor's management needs. Literally, most of these properties, if they're a pure triple net deal, which is what we're really targeting here, pass all of the maintenance and management responsibilities onto the tenant. The owners of these properties, what they need to do is confirm that they're receiving proof that the property taxes are being paid on time, a couple of times a year. I think that's usually once or twice, depending on the state that you're in. And you got to receive your money. You either have to cash your check or make sure your direct deposit hit. That's it. That's really your management responsibilities at this point in time. It usually allows them to keep a similar net income. Now, again, the market's always changing. We can't guarantee, future results from past. But if you look at what we're showing you, generally speaking, they're getting a raise. When we're going in and when we're pitching this to people, they're getting a raise. And I'll remind you, and I'll just quickly remind you, apartments have skyrocketed. They're at some of their highest price points that they've been in history.
Yep.
That's just where we're at.
how we could go higher.
I don't either. Why is this niche so great for you? Well, Dusty and I would love to take care of the entire country and collect all of the business that's available out there with this niche. But the reality is there's not enough time in the day, and we have a small boutique brokerage and we run a school, and we would like to take and, share this niche through our schools, which is what we're doing today with all of you. Feel free to take this niche, run with it. I don't mind.
Yeah.
Go ahead and run with it right now.
Well, the fact of the matter is, you already have all of these people in your phone, right?
You have what you
don't
need.
know everyone.
No.
have
You've got the
your own
relationships.
contacts.
Yeah.
You know people with 10 or 15 rentals. You know people with apartments.
Yep.
And chances are you've often wondered, how do I get them to sell it? Why, because they're asking you, well, why would I?
Yeah. Show me a value prop. Those
why.
guys will sit there with you and they'll plant their feet. They'll look you in the eye and they'll say, give me a good reason.
Yeah.
Show me a reason. Well,
This
guess
is-
what? This is the reason.
Yeah.
You're also able to list and sell multiple properties at one time. It gives you a good control of the situation. And I got to tell you something, the clients really appreciate that part of it. Because if you've ever had someone that's up against the wire on that 45 days, you'll realize that the way we've set this niche up, that 45 days typically doesn't become a problem. Typically, it always can. Always, 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 always. But typically, not if you follow what we're saying here. The investor is focused on the income rather than the price point. And again, they're less, I'm going to be direct. They're less likely to think their property's gold and everyone else's property's stone. And they're less likely to think that, for some reason their property's worth 120% of what the market really is. Because they're focused on the income and rather the loss of income, the longer this takes to put in play.
Yep. So basically, you already know how to evaluate rentals like houses and duplexes. Chances are you may not know how to evaluate apartments. And also, if you want to take this and run on the net lease side and also do the full transaction, we would welcome referrals. But
By the way, this is our shameless plug. Just do the full shameless plug. Do the full shameless plug. Yeah.
But if you do want to learn this yourself, we have a school, so you can sign up, straighttalkacademy.com. We have about 55 classes, workshops, and we also give you every single tool and resource and marketing material template, everything that we have in our brokerage.
We share.
It's on here.
Yep.
So if you don't know how to evaluate apartments, I would go on there. I would sign up for a month, go on there, take all the apartment classes you can. And then you've got the knowledge there.
Well, and if you're not familiar with, office or retail or the net lease, that's all in here too. It's all in here.
Yeah.
Actually, marketing is in here too. There's a lot in here.
Lead gen, and all of it. So shameless plug. You know how to evaluate.
Gosh, and how do people go there?
StraightTalkAcademy.com.
Oh, very good.
Yeah.
So that was the shameless plug part.
There it is.
All right. So example situations. This is a live situation.
Well, we're going to go over basically that first example, right? So we're going to go over that family portfolio. And what we do, I'm going to just bring all this up here, is we start by prospecting for broker opinion of value meetings, essentially. That's how we get the listings. So we go out there, we talk to our residential agent counterparts, we talk to people in the apartment industry. We say, look, we want to evaluate your property, but we don't want to just do that. We're going to show them their equity position. We're going to show them their current cash flow. And most importantly, we're going to show them how they can redeploy their equity into these net lease properties. And often when they see that, when they see what they can redeploy their equity into, I've got my 5 houses over here versus this Starbucks over here. Most of the time they're going to be like, yes, let's list this.
Well, keep in mind, most of these people are hitting retirement age. They're really trying to figure out how to stabilize their income. And by the way, if they want to take a bunch of cash, they still should look at this as an opportunity to do it. Because a lot of times these folks, all of these properties are generally paid off or they're close. Most of the time, that's what we're seeing. You can tell them, hey, do this and then borrow the money out against the property. It'll service the debt and you still get your cash tax free.
That's it.
Yep.
That's it. So I think, okay. So we're going to bring up the calculator.
Oh, look, you put a slide in there to remind us.
To remind us.
Well played.
So I'm going to go ahead and exit this here. Whoops, sorry about that. We're going to pull up the calculator. There we are. Okay. So this is what we'll send to you. We're going to show you how to get this at the end. But this is a calculator that we've built, and this is what we show our clients, right? So this is basically that that family right here on this tab. This is the cash flow comparison tab. And what we've done is we've put in the basic information, the price, how much gross rent they have, their expenses, and it auto calculates everything. So you can see here on line 10, cap rate, they're getting a 3.5% return based on their current equity position. So go ahead.
I just want to point out, there's not a lot of art in these, but I got to tell you something. Dusty actually built every one of these calculators that we're going to show you as we've discovered our way through this niche based on what the needs are that we have and the response that we got from clients so that they understood what we're saying. So basically what Dusty's put together here for you is tools that are tried, true, and tested. They are not fancy, but these are effective tools that are easy to understand, and the clients have given us the green light to basically share it with you.
Yeah. So you look on here, imagine you're the investor here, and I've got this property at 2.2 million. And then I'm looking at these comparisons, right? So the Burger King over here is only 1.1, but look at my income. My income's 60,000, 68,000. And I've got money left over. I've got like $1 million left over for another property if I wanted to.
So you improve your position and could have $1 million in boot if you wanted.
That's right.
I wouldn't suggest that.
Right.
There's lots better ways to do that, but you could.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. And then they look at, I've got this Dollar General. So we fill in with these other properties that are on the market today, right? These were on the market when we showed them the listing presentation.
Yes, they were available.
And the client ends up looking at these and being like, wow, I can sell this, and I can go in and if I wanted to keep $1 million, I could still have 70,000 in net income.
And guys, I can't tell you how many times I have seen super successful, seasoned real estate investors that are still confused by the 1031 exchange tax laws. And they've said to me, but Steve, I don't think you're allowed to exchange an apartment for a Burger King, or you can't exchange a house for a office building. Steve, you have to exchange a house for a house and an apartment for apartment. And that was true 30 years ago plus, but it's not true today. And it doesn't mean that those clients aren't seasoned, excellent investors. They are, but there's still a lot of misinformation or old information that they believe to be facts. So when you're dealing with your clients, go over all of the basics. Don't assume they know. Don't assume they know.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
I've actually seen agents, even with seasoned agents, that didn't realize that I can exchange an apartment for a net lease property. Not a problem. So anyway, this is the calculator we use. We bring this up right in front of the clients. We show them live. Here's what you can do. And oftentimes they want to pull the trigger and find a replacement. I just want to point out real quick, what we're going to send you is this file here, but it's also got a loan calculator in it. It does an analysis, a pro forma analysis. So if you wanted to change some stuff up.
What if I improve the property this way and now it was, renting at this, so you can do it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It allows it to be done.
And then also a boot calculator. So depending on if they've got a bunch of properties to replace or just one, it can analyze the taxes they may have to pay depending on their situation. These are all estimated things, right? We're not their tax advisor.
No, we're no one's tax advisor.
But at least this helps you paint a picture for the client.
Well, yep. And again, don't be afraid of that boot. There is some times when you're going to, if you're in a situation where your client's going to end up with some boot and they were able to, in the exchange part, meet or exceed all of their goals and end up with some boot, typically that's not a bad thing.
Yeah. Little vacation money. So that's the calculator. This is what we do to work with our clients. And I want to point out that we find these things on LoopNet.
Or Property Line,
right.
CoStar. There's a whole bunch of places, but LoopNet's a great one.
It's a great one. And also, if you're a little strapped for funds, there is a free account that you can create on LoopNet.
And I'm going to caution you on the free account. If you're doing this professionally, you really shouldn't be using that free account very long because you're going to be doing a disservice to your clients.
Right.
Because with the free account, you do not get to see even close to everything that's available. So you're going to be working from a disadvantage from those who have a paid account. So if you're going to do this and you're serious, guess what? Like many things, it takes a little investment, and it's not too much, but you really need to quickly get to the paid LoopNet account, not be on the free one.
I'll point out too that if you're with like national brokerages like Keller Williams and some of the other ones, they've often got agreements in place with like CoStar or LoopNet. So you may be able to get that pretty cheap, if not free. I think some of these large, I think Keller Williams maybe, I'm not sure exactly. But
I don't think they're free on it yet.
Okay.
They might be. If there's anyone from Keller Williams, go ahead and text us and let us know if you're getting it for free. I didn't think you were yet, but maybe you are now.
So this is what you'll find, right? So some basic information. It also has some more complex information you may or may not be familiar with. Again, shameless plug, go to straighttalkacademy.com and take the classes if you're not familiar with net lease properties.
Tells you how to analyze it, tells you which questions to ask. It tells you how to figure out what your client really means when they say a good deal, and it tells you how to then find it for them.
So, but LoopNet's a great starting spot that'll have a lot of information like this, and this is where we find these properties to compare against, the subject property. So I want to point out, by the way, the median income for a residential agent
this was taken in the last couple of years. It's pretty close.
Probably
it's pretty
a little
close.
higher, but it's probably very
Pretty close.
similar
Yep.
difference between the two.
Yeah.
The median income from a residential only, right? So an agent who does only residential, as of I think it was a year or two ago, about 40,000 across the U.S.
That's small towns to everywhere. That's
everywhere.
Part-time, full-time, whatever.
That's from the NAR, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, the median income for realtors who do at least one commercial transaction, at least one, right? So they do residential, but they also do at least one commercial transaction. What do you think that is?
Every year.
That's quite a bit more.
And what you shouldn't be looking at is the numbers. What you should be looking at is the spread.
Yeah. So whatever you're doing right now, if you're doing residential only, imagine if you added one commercial deal to your transactions.
Statistically speaking, it's going to pay you to do that.
Yeah. Just to go back to our second example, the widow, what if you just did one of, instead of, forget in 90 days, what if you just did one of these projects a year?
In a year, added on to whatever you're currently making. That's another $50,000.
Not too bad.
That's $50,000.
Disclaimer, you may or may not achieve those results. Yeah, these are examples. These are things that we've done. I hope you can achieve those, but this is what we do.
I just realized that your license number is there. Mine isn't. Mine is 01267541. But the reality is we're both real estate professionals. We're not CPAs. We're not attorneys. We're not financial advisors, and we can't guarantee anything. You got to do the work.
Just sharing what we do.
Yep.
So now you know the process that we go through. I want you to go and do this for yourself. I want you to open your phone. I want you to identify all of the rental owners that you know. You know plenty if you've been in the business for a while.
And even if you don't, you should have a relationship with a title officer who could get you a whole bunch.
Yeah.
Period.
Right. So go out, find those, and connect with them. And really, again, all we do, we connect with these investors and we say, I want to evaluate your portfolio.
I want to do a BPO for you for free.
Yeah.
And I want to show you an opportunity that you may not know exists.
That's right.
That's
right. And then when we show up, it's you've done BPOs before. It's the BPO on their portfolio, but also it compares it against net lease properties in the market. And that gets them
Does
excited.
our training help with that too? To help people set that up? I believe it does. Yeah. It shows you how to set that up yourself. Because again, I think everything we do, we share.
There's
what we do in our brokerage, we share
on the schools
for the schools.
Again, straighttalkacademy.com. There is several classes at least on BPOs and how to put those together and how we do ours. So if you want to take a class on that, that's on Straight Talk Academy as well. I want to caution you though, as you're going through this process, as you're using the calculator, be careful with the escrow timing. That's probably the most important.
Very critical.
So, as we're, listing and selling maybe 2 or 3 properties at a time, looking at a replacement, timing all of those escrows together is very important.
Well, what's really important is getting the language in the contract up front that allows you to control that timing.
Yeah.
That's critical. You can't do that backwards. At all.
And that could be something so far as when you enter a contract like this, the seller perhaps has an option to extend escrow by 30 days, stuff like that. Sometimes you see the buyer with that.
Depends on the situation, but yes, exactly.
Yeah. So be careful. So I want you to go out and do that. We promised that
we did
give you some stuff. We're going to give you the cash flow calculators that we talked about.
And you get this no matter what.
Yeah,
right?
We're going to show you how to get this.
Yep.
We're going to give you the ebook. We're going to give you the 4-part video series. I'm going to tell you how to do a strategy session.
And that's possible. We don't guarantee everyone gets the strategy session, but everyone will get everything else.
First off, if you want the calculator, if you want all the other stuff except for the strategy session, text
me. That's my number. That's
Yep.
Steve's number. Text me at 916-798-1116. I want your name and I want your email.
Right.
Yeah.
And we'll send all of those
That's
out to you. Right.
we're not selling the email list. We will keep it for ourselves. It will be used for Straight Talk Schools, but it won't be used for anything else.
Yeah. So we'll send all these to you. Again, 916-798-1116. Text your name and your email. I'll see if I can put this in the description below as well, in case you're not quick enough. And after the webinar here, you'll see all those in your inbox. Now, I also promise.
Well, I'd say also just take your phone out right now, bring it up. This way you don't have to say, what was that number again? 916-798-1116. I see a name. I see an email. They're going to get the stuff we promised.
That's it.
That's it.
That's it. So also, now you have a possibility to do a 30-minute strategy session with us. If you want to take what we've taught you today, implement it, we can put a strategy together for you for the next 90 days. We can troubleshoot any leads you already have. I imagine a lot of people have been thinking about the investors in their inbox or in their phone book.
Should be. During
this. And obviously, we can help you with the calculator that we've given you, help you figure out how to use that if you have some trouble. But there's some caveats.
When it says you can't be struggling, we all have struggles. That's not true in and of itself, but you can't be a wishful agent. You've got to be one of these people who gets yourself up and goes. You've got to be a self-starter, and you've got to hold yourself accountable for this. You've got to be on your A game. I really don't want to give a free Saturday session to someone who's kind of in it, kind of out of it. If you want a strategy session with us, know what you want to do.
If you're having difficulty with the basics and escrows and getting just
if you're still struggling with residential real estate, then you need to keep getting the base foundations of residential real estate under your belt before you add commercial.
That's right.
But you do need that base foundation will make your commercial career so much better if you make sure it's a solid foundation. You got to do that first.
Yeah. Because what we're doing here, we're talking about adding this on to your current business. This isn't
correct.
This isn't going to save someone who's having difficulty with everything else. This is adding on to your business, right? So if you're not successful now, this isn't going to change anything.
That's it.
Right? So you need to, obviously, too.
You got to have some drive, some focus. Yeah.
If you're closing 2, 3, 4 escrows at a time, you need to be laser focused.
That's right.
So if you're just kind of,
team's got to be in place.
Yeah. If you're kind of loosey goosey, just kind of doing whatever, this won't work, and you're going to get in trouble. And this isn't going to be the magic fix it ticket.
There's no magic bullet. You actually have to do the work.
Yeah. So I do want to point out.
This is a great comment. Dusty's a statistics nut, and this is a great statistic.
I'm a numbers guy. So
yeah, you are.
In Sacramento's our MSA, and in our MSA, there's about 3,000 residential agents, right? These are the people competing for the houses, right? So the
realtors,
200,000, 300,000, the houses,
400,000, 500, whatever they are.
3,000 of them. Now, how many commercial only agents do you think there are? Not
in the same area.
Same area, right? Now, these are the people going after our demographic, which is, the 1 million, 2 million, 3 million plus transactions.
Mm-hmm.
There's only about 64 of us in my MSA. So would you rather compete against the other 3,000, or do you want to, make it a little bit easier on yourself and compete against the 64 of us?
I don't have the actual statistical numbers, but the volume of all the residential transaction in a year and the volume of all the commercial transactions in a year is not that different.
It's not.
It's just the number of people you're competing to get it with that's different, which is an interesting which bolsters the fact that the average is 2.5 times if you do one commercial transaction, plus or minus.
Yeah. So you should try and add one of these projects to your book of business this year. So if you meet the criteria we said before, if you're serious, I want you to,
and you've got your foundations under you, residentially speaking.
Yep. I want you to text Strat Session to 916-804-2128.
And that's Dusty's personal cell phone.
That's my number.
That's it.
Please be sure you're serious. We'll set something up. We'll put together a strategy session for you. I want to help you guys get started. I think that's really it for now. So if you do want a strategy session, if you think you're qualified, go ahead and text that there. If you want the materials that we talked about, the calculator, all that stuff, that's going to be Steve's cell. I'll make sure both of these are in the description below after we're done here. And hopefully you get started and you get your first commercial transaction under your belt this year and double your income, man.
Take the challenge. I mean, like Dusty said, if you're a real estate professional, at the very least, think about adding commercial in some aspect, because I would like to be part of the statistic that basically adding one transaction a year is going to take my income up by more than double. That's something I'd be willing to take a shot at, right? See what happens.
Try it. So there you go. All right. Thank you, everyone,
Thanks for listening.
For joining us today, and go get them.